The airport buzzed with the usual early morning chaos. Rolling suitcases clattering across polished floors, the hum of jet engines outside, and the overlapping chatter of hurried travelers. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, glinting off the jet bridges and casting long reflections on the tile floor. The smell of fresh coffee mingled with the faint metallic scent of luggage carts, filling the air with a mix of tension and routine energy. At the back of the line, Mark leaned casually against his carry-on. At 38, he had mastered the art of quiet observation, a skill that would serve him well today. Near the gate, a commotion caught his eye. A woman around 40 with tousled blonde hair and a fiery red blouse that clashed against her black skirt was clutching her phone and boarding pass with white-knuckled intensity. Her gestures were sharp and dramatic, pointing accusingly at the gate agent as though she were directing a play only she understood. Travelers began to slow their steps, drawn to the tension like moths to light. The gate agent, Maria, stood firm behind the counter. She was calm and composed, her crisp uniform perfectly in place, her posture straight, her eyes steady. One hand held a small microphone while the other guided passengers forward with quiet authority. When she finally spoke, her voice was polite but unyielding. "Ma'am, your boarding pass indicates Zone 3. You'll board with the general passengers." It wasn't a suggestion, and the tone made that clear. The woman's face flushed deeper with anger. "No, that's impossible. I paid for Sky Priority. I should be boarding now. My husband's right there. He has the same pass." She pointed toward a man sitting a few rows away, his expression a mix of embarrassment and resignation. He lifted his hands in silent appeal, but she ignored him completely. Maria checked her terminal with practiced ease. The quiet tapping of keys and the soft beep of the system only added to the growing tension. "Ma'am," she said evenly, "I can show you exactly what the system says. Both tickets are Zone 3. There's no Sky Priority upgrade on either." The woman, Sophia, froze, her mouth opening and closing in disbelief. She leaned closer, lowering her voice to a strained whisper that still carried through the crowd. "You don't understand. The woman on the phone told me it would work. I paid extra. I've been flying for years, and this isn't fair." Her frustration was slipping into desperation now. Around them, the terminal had gone quiet. People watched with curiosity, some amused, others already holding up phones to record the unfolding scene. The moment was teetering between ordinary inconvenience and full-blown spectacle. Maria didn't waver. She lifted the microphone to her lips and spoke clearly, her tone calm but commanding. "Attention all passengers. Boarding Zone 3 now. Ma'am, at the gate desk, your pass is Zone 3, not priority. Please wait with the rest of Zone 3 passengers." Her words carried through the terminal, calm and unmistakable. The private argument had just become public truth. Sophia's jaw tightened. She gripped her boarding pass even harder, her knuckles pale. Her eyes darted around, searching for sympathy, but found only raised eyebrows, a few smirks, and the glow of phone screens. The crowd slowly resumed its rhythm, soft laughter and whispered comments rippling through the air. Mark couldn't help but notice the quiet grace with which Maria handled it all. Every gesture, every pause felt deliberate. It wasn't just professionalism, it was a masterclass in composure. The unspoken message was clear. Rules exist for a reason, and no amount of outrage can change them. Sophia's breathing quickened. A sheen of sweat glimmered at her temple. She tried again, her voice cracking as she stammered, I know my husband and I have the same pass." Maria did not waver. She repeated, this time with a faint edge that carried clearly through the microphone. "Your boarding pass is Zone 3. Zones 1 and 2 are boarding now. You may join your husband and board with Zone 3. The energy in the terminal shifted. Passengers relaxed slightly, exchanging knowing smiles as the balance of authority tipped decisively in Maria's favor. Sophia's face reflected disbelief and frustration. The invisible pedestal of entitlement she had built for herself was crumbling beneath her. Mark could almost see the inner conflict playing out across her features, denial battling the undeniable truth flashing on the gate screen. As boarding continued, the line began to move. The rhythmic sound of rolling suitcases echoed through the terminal. Sophia stood apart, clutching her boarding pass and phone, pacing in small restless steps as if measuring the distance between indignation and reality. Maria's gaze stayed locked on her, calm but alert, Every time Sophia opened her mouth, the air seemed to tighten, the entire terminal pausing for the next moment in this quiet but riveting drama. Mark adjusted his backpack and leaned forward slightly, curiosity mixing with a low thrum of anticipation in his chest. The conflict wasn't over. Authority had drawn its line, entitlement had been challenged, and the crowd knew it. Sophia's defiance was still there, but so was her vulnerability. The terminal seemed to hold its breath, the hum of air conditioning, the rolling luggage, and the distant flight announcements blending into a tense silence, as if even the building was waiting to see what would happen next. For the first time, Sophia's movement slowed. Her gestures lost their sharpness. She looked around, realizing that every eye was on her, that her performance had an audience. The pedestal she'd assumed was gone. Mark's eyes met Maria's for a brief moment. A faint smile played at the corner of Maria's lips, not mocking but quietly confident. Sophia's frustration deepened. Her chest rose and fell in shallow, uneven breaths. She planted herself at the counter, holding her boarding pass like a shield and her phone like a weapon. Every few seconds she tapped at the screen anxiously, as if trying to summon an invisible ally to rescue her from humiliation. Under the terminal lights, the red of her blouse seemed even brighter, almost feverish, a stark contrast to Maria's serene professionalism. Maria stood tall, arms relaxed, eyes steady, microphone poised like a symbol of quiet control. Passengers behind Mark shifted, craning their necks for a better view. Phones appeared discreetly, screens angled just enough to record without drawing attention. The low buzz of the terminal faded in Mark's awareness, replaced by the electric tension radiating between the two women. Sophia's voice cut through the air, sharp and brittle. "This is unacceptable. I've traveled all over the world. I know my rights. You can't just ignore me." Her gestures were wild, slicing the air as though demanding the world bend to her will. Maria remained unflinching. Her tone was calm, yet firm enough to still the murmurs nearby. "Ma'am, I understand your concern, but the system shows Zone 3 for both passengers. Zones 1 and 2 are boarding now. You'll board with your assigned group." Each word was deliberate, grounded, and final, a reminder that fairness wasn't up for negotiation. She tapped the terminal again, and the bright reflection on the counter confirmed what everyone had already guessed. Sophia's claim of sky priority was false. Sophia's husband approached the counter. His brow furrowed, confusion etched into his features. "I don't understand," he said quietly. "I thought we had priority. Are you saying we didn't pay for it?" Maria nodded politely, gesturing toward the screen. "The system is clear, sir. Both tickets are Zone 3. The couple exchanged a tense glance. Sophia's eyes darted between the screen and her husband, desperate to find some loophole or mistake to cling to. Mark observed closely as quiet laughter rippled through the crowd. Passengers exchanged glances and small shakes of the head, recognizing what had just unfolded, the unmasking of arrogance beneath the bright lights of public accountability. Sophia waved her phone and boarding pass in a frantic motion. "No, this can't be happening. I spoke to customer service. They confirmed my priority. Someone has to fix this." Her voice rose, slicing through the hum of the terminal. Passengers who had been pretending not to watch now turned openly. Whispers spread, some with amusement, others with disbelief. Maria's final response was steady, her voice carrying clearly through the microphone without a trace of irritation. "Ma'am, as I've stated, your boarding pass is Zone 3. Boarding before your assigned group isn't permitted. This process ensures fairness for all passengers. Your cooperation is appreciated." Her words landed with quiet precision, respectful, firm and absolute. The repetition of Maria's words, combined with her confident posture, reinforced her authority without her needing to raise her voice. Sophia's expression shifted slightly, a flicker of realization crossing her face as the truth began to pierce through the fog of indignation. She looked around, noticing the raised phones, the smirks, and the restrained amusement of those watching. Her entitlement had been challenged publicly, and for the first time she seemed to understand the weight of her predicament. Her voice faltered, then returned, sharp with a mix of pride and desperation. "This isn't right. I don't care what your system says. I paid extra." Her tone grew louder, pushing back against the quiet dominance Maria maintained with ease. Mark watched closely, his attention fixed on the shifting balance between power and vulnerability. Sophia's movements had become frantic, unsteady, while Maria's composure anchored the scene like calm in a storm. It was a tense, silent duel, each woman aware of what was at stake, every moment charged with unspoken emotion. The suspense gripped Mark's chest, tightening like a coiled spring. He could sense Sophia's inevitable humiliation approaching, the kind of moment that would linger far beyond this gate. The terminal itself felt alive, ordinary travel sounds fading into the background as the unfolding drama consumed everyone's focus. Recognizing the escalation, Maria lifted her microphone, projecting her voice so that everyone within the gate area could hear. "Attention all passengers. Boarding Zone 3 now. Ma'am at the gate desk, your pass is Zone 3, not priority. Please wait your turn." Her announcement sliced through the air with crisp authority, leaving no room for doubt or debate. Sophia's eyes widened. For the first time, the pressure of public scrutiny was visible on her face. The murmurs among passengers grew louder, a wave of whispers, clicks, and camera shutters filling the space with quiet judgment. Sophia's hands trembled as she clutched her boarding pass. Her once confident tone now wavered, trembling between defiance and disbelief. "You can't do this," she said shakily. "I demand to speak to your supervisor." Maria shook her head gently, maintaining steady eye contact. Her gesture was calm but final. "The information is accurate, ma'am. Zone 3 is your boarding designation. The supervisor can confirm the same." The tension thickened, pressing against the air. Sophia's face shifted from anger to disbelief, her last traces of control slipping as Maria's composure held firm. The other passengers leaned forward, drawn in completely. Every word, every motion felt amplified, a live drama none of them could look away from. Sophia paused, taking a long, shaky breath. Her husband's helpless expression offered no support, only quiet frustration. The full weight of embarrassment began to settle over her shoulders. The tremor in her hands betrayed the cracks forming beneath her confident facade. Mark shifted slightly, realizing that the first act of this confrontation had reached its peak. Maria had asserted control, Sophia's authority had crumbled, and the audience was hanging on the edge of what came next. Sophia's lips pressed into a hard line, her brow furrowed, eyes darting nervously around the terminal in search of an escape. The suspense in the air was almost tangible as she took a small step back, her pride clashing with the reality she could no longer deny. Mark followed her every movement, the anticipation building. The conflict had grown from private indignation to public spectacle, and its outcome was still uncertain. Sophia's breathing quickened. Her face flushed as she stepped forward again, planting herself squarely at the counter, frustration and disbelief written across her features. The terminal grew quieter, the crowd sensing the decisive moment had arrived. Mark leaned against his carry-on, his gaze steady, watching the drama unfold under the glow of morning sunlight reflecting off the polished floor and metal railings. The entire scene had a surreal cinematic intensity. The hum of engines and rolling luggage faded beneath the thick tension radiating between the two women. Maria lifted the microphone once more, her voice clear and composed. "Attention all passengers. Boarding Zone 3 now. Ma'am at the gate desk, your boarding pass is Zone 3, not priority. Any attempts to bypass this will be recorded and reported." Her tone was calm but absolute, her words carrying a precision that silenced even the whispers. The microphone gave her authority a new weight. What had been quiet confidence was now undeniable command. The passengers shifted again, whispering, smiling, some recording discreetly. Sophia's grip tightened around her boarding pass, her knuckles pale against the paper as the realization of defeat began to settle in. She glared at Maria, her voice rising despite the public setting. "I don't care what your system says. This is a mistake. I paid for priority. You're ruining everything." Her movements grew frantic, waving her boarding pass and phone as if sheer force could bend the rules to her will. Her husband stood a step behind, shifting uneasily, his face caught between embarrassment and helplessness. His eyes met Maria's, silently pleading for a way out. Maria didn't flinch. She tilted her head slightly, calm and deliberate. "Ma'am, the information is correct. Both passengers hold Zone 3 tickets. You may join your husband and board accordingly." Her tone was firm but controlled, every word measured, cutting cleanly through the tension that Sophia's outrage had created. She gestured toward the queue. reinforcing that the rules applied equally to everyone, no matter how loudly they protested. The crowd began reacting in small ways. A few passengers hid quiet laughter. Others whispered to each other, and several discreetly lifted their phones to record the scene. Mark noticed the change immediately. The more attention Sophia drew, the smaller she seemed to become. Her shoulders hunched slightly, her hands trembled, and the confidence she wore like armor started to crack. The pedestal she had built for herself was crumbling under the weight of public eyes. Each whisper, each quiet chuckle chipped away at her control, feeding her frustration. Desperately, she tried another tactic. Pulling out her phone, she began dialing, her fingers shaking as she waited. The call went unanswered. A muttered curse slipped through, equal parts disbelief and humiliation. Mark could almost see the thoughts racing behind her expression, anger directed at the rules, the staff, and the passengers alike, yet deep down realizing none of it would change the truth. The tension in the terminal thickened. Every onlooker became a silent witness to pride colliding with authority. Maria seized the moment. She raised the microphone, her voice calm but edged with finality. "Ma'am, as I've stated, your boarding pass is Zone 3. Any further attempt to bypass procedure will be documented. Please cooperate for the fairness of all passengers." Her calm, confident tone, amplified through the speakers, left no room for resistance. The mood in the terminal shifted. Everyone could sense it. The tide had turned. Sophia looked to her husband, her voice cracking. "See? He has the same pass. This isn't fair." Maria pointed gently toward the terminal screen. Both tickets clearly read Zone 3. The glow of the monitor reflected in Sophia's eyes, revealing a storm of disbelief, outrage, and reluctant understanding. The pedestal of entitlement was collapsing under simple, undeniable truth. Mark watched closely. Sophia's foot tapped against the polished floor, her clenched fists betraying her frustration. Her defiance now carried a trace of fear. Maria remained unshaken, a picture of quiet authority. Every calm gesture she made reinforced what Sophia could no longer deny. The entire scene played out like a slow cinematic unraveling of ego and consequence. Sophia finally let out a shaky breath, her shoulders sagging as she looked around at the watching crowd, the phones, the whispers, the quiet judgment. The power she once commanded had turned against her. She opened her mouth to argue again, but stopped. The weight of the moment pressed down too hard. Maria stood silently, allowing the pause to work in her favor. The boarding of Zones 1 and 2 continued smoothly. Passengers passing by in quiet order, living proof that the system worked just fine. Sophia's resistance wavered, the fire fading from her tone. "Fine. Zone 3. But this is ridiculous," she muttered, gesturing for her husband to follow. The reluctant words marked her surrender, a public acknowledgement of what everyone already knew. Nearby passengers exchanged knowing smiles, small nods of satisfaction passing between them. Justice, quiet but firm, had prevailed. As Mark moved forward to board, he glanced back one last time. Sophia sat beside her husband, still fuming softly, her pride bruised and her authority stripped away. Another lesson in how entitlement rarely survives the light of accountability.